All right, good morning, fam. Everyone awake today? Everyone got your hats on? I like the bougie hats. Some people wear hats to church. I should have worn mine today. Only Ryan can pull that off for the boys. It's good to be here. You know, something that was interesting was this last week, you talk about when you come to one church or you get around people who are thinking bigger in an area that you want more of, you become more like them. You become more like them. So when T and I joined one church 2 years ago, I said, I want more joy and I want more Jesus in my life. And so I'm like, I need to come to the Jesus and Joy church. And so I started coming to one church. And so this last week, a few months ago when Pastor Rowdy asked me to speak here on Sunday, and I'm like, yeah, I'd love to give the abundance talk, and we needed to break it up into 2 weeks. And we're going to talk about 10 ways of increase today. But after I went back this last week, and I have a podcast that is, goes around the world, and a lot of people listen to it. They download it every single week when I go on there and riff and go unplugged and sometimes say things that Tia comes and says, you said that. You really talked about that. And I'm like, well, baby, it's called Doug Unplugged, and we just got to keep it real in a world that's keeping it a little too fake. Right? So I took last week's message, and I put it on the Doug Unplugged podcast. My producer texted me this week and said, Doug, out of 3 years of you podcasting, this is becoming one of the number one most downloaded podcasts in the entire, out of all the podcasts you've done in 1 week right here from One Church Scottsdale. And so it's amazing to your point when you, and we're going to talk about living siloed lives today, and some of you guys are like, what does that even mean? We'll get into that, but it's amazing when you stop holding back on actually who God designed you to be. Because I struggled for a few years of trying to figure out where does God fit into my job or where does he fit into my marriage. And sometimes we just want to silo and we want to put things in their box because, no, that doesn't go on Instagram. That would go on Facebook, right? So, even think about, is this a Facebook post or is this an Instagram post? And some of you guys that aren't on either, you're like, MySpace still happening? Are we still sharing music? Anything wrong with some YouTube? Yeah, so anyway, good stuff. I'm excited to get into this today. I want to, last week we talked about money is neutral and abundance is not a number in your bank account. It's a mindset. And I loved how Pastor Ashley just now talked about it's a heart. Money's a heart issue. Or a heart reliever, or a side err on the side of health. With you can have my heart, and I think back to I'm an avid golfer. I love golf. I play a lot of golf. Played a lot of golf the last couple of days, and it was very, very cool. And today I'm going to see my favorite golfer in the entire world. He's right here in town. He's competing. Now he's on the Champions Tour. Let's just say that's the old man's tour. But Phil Mickelson is my favorite golfer. Come on, do we have any Phil fans in the house? And then, of course, the Tiger fans were like, no, boo. All right, I love Tiger now, too. Okay, but Phil Mickelson, famous golfer. And I'm going to go see him today. And I wrote about him in my book. Because years ago, when I was going through my struggle, I still go through struggle, so that's a lie. I think we all just go through different struggles with different zeros on the end. Because God won't give you more than you can handle, but sometimes until you can kind of move through your handle, he can't create space for increase. So I've been struggling, to your point, Pastor Rowdy, just this last week. But I used to view celebrities as must be nice. Must be nice to be Phil Mickelson. He just won $400,000 on Sunday for winning that tournament. It must be nice to be that famous singer because they don't struggle like I do. They don't know what it's like to be and live in the real world. And what happens is we begin to, what I call idol worship, we begin to idolize these celebrities through a must-be-nice mentality, and we put them on this platform that I don't think necessarily all of them wanted to be there, but we put them on this platform, and we're like, man, if I could just have. And I remember years ago, I took my furniture salary. I was making about $52,000 a year as a furniture owner. And Alex Rodriguez had just gotten his famous contract with the Yankees. And I think he got paid like $300 million. And there was this thing online that you could put your salary compared to Alex Rodriguez's salary. And what happened was I figured out that my salary was every time he got up to bat, like if he got up to bat, like per swing, like basically my salary was averaged down into like 3 strikes. Like he got 2 pitches and he made $52,000 when he was standing over the plate. And so that, that made me feel really good. I was like, yeah, God, why didn't I get the blessing of baseball or golf? But in that season, and I'm setting this up purposely because we often want a bailout. And I told many of you last week, if you weren't here last week, go back and listen to the recording, but we are going to catch up just a little bit. Facebook too, you too. When we are going through the struggle, we often just want the get out of jail free card. And I wanted it. And I felt like I was praying, I was giving, I was doing the right things the best that I could, but I was struggling. Thank you, my love. Thank you for the water. And I was struggling. And so I wrote, and this is MySpace days, okay? So I'm really aging myself. Long before MySpace, in fact. In 2007, I wrote Phil Mickelson a letter. I got online, and I was able to Google maybe what could be his address in San Diego, California. And see, I had $250,000 in unsecured debt. As I said last week, I had just met with a bankruptcy attorney, and I realized I was non-bankruptable. How horrible is that? You can't even file bankruptcy to get out of the hot mess you're in. That's a place you only need God, and you can only depend on him. So I'm like, I needed to write what I felt like was some embarrassing letters. And so I picked out a few famous celebrities, but I felt like I could at least write a legit one because Phil was my favorite golfer. And I'm like, it must be nice to be Phil, because what he just made on Sunday for making 12th place is honestly all I need. That patches, that solves most of my problems. And when we want out of a situation so bad, like some of you might not be here, but I have a feeling some of you are. This phone can only ring so many times or get cut off to where you have to go to a different carrier because you can't get a pre-approved cell phone through that carrier. Like, when things get that bad to where this phone is ringing off the hook, people wanting your money because you owe it to them, you will do anything. So desperate times does sometimes call for desperate measures. And I wrote a letter. It was a sappy love letter to Phil. Not dear John, it was dear Phil. Dear Phil, first of all, you're so great. I love it when you give the thumbs up and the smile. And then I began to tell him my story. And I knew I had about 4 weeks to get an answer from Phil Mickelson, and I put a self-addressed stamped envelope in there, letting him know my exact need, and the exact number at the time I'd figured out was $220,000. I can make the other 30 work, but I'm like, I'm not going to ask for more. I'm going to ask for just what I need. And I wrote the letter, and I sent it off, and I don't even think I told Tia because I was so embarrassed to be at the point to where I felt like I had become a beggar. But I didn't know what else to do. You will do what you got to do. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I'm literally about ready to put my resume in down at Taco Bell. Not that there's nothing wrong with Taco Bell, but as a 32-year-old married man with 2 young little girls who's can't even file bankruptcy, uneducated, unemployed, I have nowhere to go. So I wrote the letter asking for a bailout. 4 weeks went by, I didn't get anything back. And I had to make a decision. And so in my book, I thanked Phil for not responding and not giving back and sending me money. And today, when I go to the golf tournament, to this day, so when I wrote my book 2 years ago, I sent him a personally signed copy saying, thank you for not sending me $220,000. Because you made me figure my stuff out. You made me figure it out. You made me actually depend on God and not just on my own strength. And so today, when I go to see Phil today after his round, I'm going to be carrying this book with me. And my goal is that he sees it because I want him to sincerely know, thank you for not bailing me out. And if we could put up the first slide, because we talked about this last week. Life happens. Life happens. Bankruptcies are going to happen. Credit card debt is going to happen. Divorce is going to happen. Even abuse is going to happen. Are we going to be victims or victors? And I believe everything starts with a decision. So last week, we talked about a lot decision. I'm going to kind of bounce around a little bit, but I also want to go up to our verse from last week. And it's going to be this week, Philippians 4:13. Everyone say, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Now, I broke this down in detail last week, but I used to read this when I was sending Phil letters. I can send a Dear Phil letter because I need help. And through Christ, Phil is going to respond and bail me out of the horrible decisions I've been making for the last 10 years as a business owner. That's basically, if you were to interpret how I was praying, I can ask enough people for a loan and a money because Christ is going to bail me out because I've been peeing on toilet seats. Hello? I've been asking for a water cup at Taco Bell and filling it with Sprite. So therefore, I deserve for Christ to come and bail me out. But that's sometimes actually how it is. So go to the next slide. In order for things to improve, we must take personal responsibility in accepting our current reality. Current reality on January 1st of every single year is, we go and we step on the scale, and it says, whoa, one at a time, one at a time. It flashes at you. Yeah, that's current reality. It's like, we know we don't want to see the number, but we're at that moment of truth. Again, and here we are. That's current reality. Current reality is actually getting in to the bank account and totaling up the amount of debt. Current reality is saying, you know what? My wife and I are married. We haven't slept together in over 6 months. We've been living in separate rooms. What are we going to do? God, we need a miracle in our marriage is current reality. And that's where it's like, what is it about personal responsibility? Pastor Rowdy told me a time that he meets with a lot of couples, and they ask for, just for the record, he does not mention names. So someone's like, oh gosh, what did he say about me? He's like, it's interesting how people, when they come and they're like, and I deal with this in coaching all the time. Hey, Doug, can you just get my spouse too? Can you get my spouse too? And I'm like, I wouldn't even want to be your spouse. So why would he want to? Or she want to? Because what's happened is we want change, but we also don't want to take personal responsibility and sometimes look at current reality and say, you know what have I played into this? And I'm playing a little bit of catch up on purpose last year, and we're going to start moving through this. So as we move to the next slide, as we begin to pray like this, Philippians 4:13, I can, go ahead and say it with me, I can take personal responsibility through Christ who strengthens me. And that's how we're going to pray moving forward. So next slide is decide. We talked last week about decision. When we want to start creating increase in our life, we might say, okay, I'm 32 years old. I mean, somebody messaged me this past week, and they're like, hey, Doug, I'm going to throw a birthday party for my husband. I'm like, awesome, that sounds like a good time. They said, so should I pay for the whole thing? I'm like, your 30-year-old husband? I'm like, do you know where I was when I was turning 30? Like, this gal wanted to invite all of her friends out to a nice restaurant with money she didn't have because it's her husband's 30th, because she thought maybe she should buy her 25 adult friends a birthday dinner because her husband's turning 30. And I'm like, when I turned 30, Tia didn't buy everyone else's dinner. I mean, if you want to, you can. I don't think it's really expected. But I think if we want things to increase, we must make a decision, and we must constantly be recommitting to the decision. Last week, we also talked about confronting patterns, confronting addictions, confronting maybe broken mindsets, confronting normals. But this week I want to talk about creating. And if you missed last week, go back and watch that. I'm going to pray. God, we take personal responsibility. Silence is okay, friends. God, we accept personal responsibility. I know the plans you have for me declares you. God, I pray right now over this message, the next 20 to 30 minutes would be a new season of increase for those that are willing to decide and redecide to the decision to confronting negative patterns and creating increase in their marriage, in their soul, in their spirit, in their finances, in their families, and their walk with you. In Jesus' name, amen. Number 10 non-negotiables of abundance. Now, this may be a lot, this may be a little. This morning, just like last week, I may say a few things that are inappropriate, but if you have an issue with the sermon, you send emails to Rowdy at One Church. We got to have some fun with this too, fam. Okay? 10 non-negotiables of abundance. Number 1, they're going to be very, very simple notes. Number 1 is gratitude. How can you ask for more if you're not thankful with what you've been given? One of the biggest challenges that people come to T and I when they're asking questions or wanting more is the lack of gratitude and how lack of being grateful they are for what they've been given. There's almost a spirit of pride or arrogance or embarrassment. I don't need more. I don't need money. Doug, money doesn't motivate me. Okay. So if you were to die right now, which I hope you don't, but the good Lord's going to take us home when it is in due time. So I get a lot of people literally that say money doesn't motivate me. I'm like, well, what does motivate you? My kids. Okay? And I'm not mocking this, by the way. But I want to give you a perspective. My kids, my grandkids. Really? Okay, what motivates you? I just love them, and nothing else matters in the world except them. Meanwhile, we often have our hand out. I'm like, okay, so if you were to pass away today, could you afford the $7,000 in cash? Do you have $7,000 in your account right now that would pay for your complete funeral? Because that's how much a funeral costs. Or would you put that burden on your kids? The people that you love so much, because money doesn't motivate you. So you can see how it can be a very selfish, often gratitude before we can ask for more. It can be like, man, do I really, and it's not that you don't love your kids, but it's like sometimes our perspective is a little bit off when you really think about, And again, we talked about that last week, and you can spend more time in the book here in life about sometimes the negative money concepts that come with it. So number 1 is gratitude. Every morning I wake up, first thing I do before I have my coffee, while I'm having my coffee in my alone in prayer time, God, I'm so happy and grateful for this home. But you know what? I was praying that when T and I lived in our apartment in Hillsboro, Oregon, our 1-bedroom apartment right in Beaverton, Oregon, right off Sunset Highway. God, I'm so happy and grateful for what you've been giving me. I'm so happy and grateful for my kids. I'm so happy and grateful for a car that starts. I'm so happy and grateful for a One Church family that I can come and hang out with on Sunday and every single day of the week. I am so happy and grateful for my wife. I'm so happy and grateful for my husband. I am so happy and grateful that you created an opportunity this week for me to learn about emotional intelligence. I'm so happy and grateful for that person that just cut me off, because them cutting me off taught me a lot about me. Folks, happy and grateful. Spirit of gratitude. Number 2, make right on past wrongs. How can we ask for more if we're leaving a whole trail behind us? For those of you that are in the book, page 13, I have these little fun thing called Dougisms. It's a coffee table book, and I just want to read you Dougism number 2. Oh, imagine that, taking personal responsibility. When you choose to take personal responsibility, you actually become free. When I did this in my own life, I also had to leave. This is where I'm going to get in your cereal this morning. Pastor Rowdy, that's okay, right? We get in cereal around here? Yes. I'm going to be the milk in your coffee this morning. I'm going to be the almond latte chocolate loco in your sweetener, okay? I'm sorry messages. I had to leave a few I'm sorry messages with unreturned phone calls. I'm okay with that. I knew I needed to do my part, take personal responsibility for my actions, and expect nothing in return. You hear that? Expect nothing in return. The beginning of personal responsibility, friends, is I'm sorry without a but. I'm sorry, but if traffic, I had someone this past week tell me, I'm so sorry, but traffic was just, leave earlier then. Stop blaming everything. Well, I got fired, but if my coworker, no, your butt got fired. Because you know what? There was a pattern of disobedience, and finally one caught up with you, and your coworker happened to be involved. I'm sorry without a but. Some of us have just some big old butts in this room. We need to have smaller butts. Men, we're getting smaller butts, and we're running Tough Mudder. All right? Always value your own freedom and people over anything else. I didn't say you need to be close friends again with these people from the past. However, releasing hard feelings, breaking down walls that got built, and letting go of assumptions that got made are important for healing. Healing, where does our healing come from? Christ. And freedom to begin. Give it a try and watch what happens. So I ask you today, and these are just things to think about. Love me or hate me, send the emails to Pastor Rowdy. Who do you owe an apology to? Who do you owe an apology to without a but? Who do you owe a Dear Phil letter without an ask? You know what? 12 years ago, I said something. I've never forgotten it. And I'm sorry. Who do you owe money to? When T and I started adopting the abundance mindset years ago, we made a commitment. It would be very similar to and I'm going to use an example of the Christmas box. 6 hands go up. No, that was turkeys. Same thing. Let's talk Christmas boxes, though. Let's say you guys needed 6 more boxes to be filled. 16 hands go up. The first thing that would happen is Doug and Tia was, somebody else has got it. Between the 16, 6 people will talk to Lydia. So we went on and we lived this type of mentality, like, someone else has got it taken care of. They have more than enough. Because again, we operated on minimums, right? Just enough mentality. So years ago, we were attending this little church, and they were having a building fund. A little church in Hillsboro, Oregon. They were in the middle of a season of expansion. And they asked for commitments to help get into this new building. And T and I didn't have much. We didn't make much. But we committed $1,200 for 12 months. That was $100 a month. 3 months into the building fund, for whatever reason, we moved way across town. We stopped attending that church. In our hearts, we made a commitment we justified that we were making a commitment to the church building fund as long as we were attending that church. But when you make commitments to the kingdom of God, you're actually making commitments to God, not the church. 8 years go by. We begin to go back and look at the areas of people we owed money to, apologies to. And we sent over a couple of payments that church that I later found out was not even in that building anymore. But then you can justify it again. Well, they don't need the money. The building fund never happened. But we sent a few different checks to total up that $1,200. Speaking of golf and integrity, I used to work at a golf course in Cornelius, Oregon, where I grew up learning how to play golf. It's called Forest Hills. I used to work there. All of us guys, we would pick the range. We'd drive the range pickers, and we'd pick that place, and they would compensate us through free golf. But we all knew often we were working way more than the free golf that we were getting. Like, they were saving a lot of money. And let's just say, they knew our sweet spots. Give these boys free golf, and they will go around picking the range. They'll drive the picker. They'll clean the balls, wash the carts. They'll do everything. Well, one time, I had worked about 5 nights in a row till like super late. And so a couple of buddies of mine says, hey, do you know they have golf balls in the back? Brand new Pro Vs. They're not even locked up. Let's take some. And I said, and he was like, dude, they don't even pay us half of what we're worth. They're getting away with so much, and I began to buy into his ways of thinking. And if you know golf, they were actually Bellatas. Old school golf ball. I went back and I took 2 dozen. I played the worst golf of my entire life the next 4 weeks. And I couldn't figure out why. Of course, it wasn't my fault, right? These dang balls, right? It's the ball's fault. It's interesting how 9 years ago, I sent a check for about $120 to Forest Hills Golf Course. And I said, I took golf balls when I was a junior in high school, and I hope this covers that. He didn't even know. I ran into him a couple years ago. I was out there, a couple years later, I was out there playing golf. He's never forgotten that. Dick Clark has never, ever forgotten me sending him a check because he's like, you're weird. And yes, people that live and operate in abundance get weird. Okay, so welcome to being weird. If you want to be weird, weird people do weird big things, so it's okay. Okay, I got to move on. Otherwise, we are going to be into Chipotle again. Okay. Who do you owe an apology to? Who do you owe money to? Any unfinished relational business. Maybe a deal in the gray area that could have went either way that you made turn your way. It's time to go back and just clean it up. Just start the process of cleaning it up. Yes, I'm also talking about child support, commitments you made to a family, an in-law. I'll get you next time, but next time never came around. Start cleaning those things up. Number 3, identify self-habits or people who are holding me up. How many of you have some people that are just holding you up in life? No one's willing to raise their hand. Okay, a couple of you. Thank you for the honesty. Right? Because there are some people, but you notice I started with identify self, and I didn't even put it in all caps. Yeah. Self. Identify self habits or people. You know that Jesus separated himself often from anybody not growing? Jesus was around a lot of people, but he lived a very, very lonely life. Jesus was a disruptor. Jesus didn't operate on norms. He did a little bit of crazy stuff. So let's start by looking at what self-habits are keeping me from growth. I ask you, who's feeding your spirit today, One Church? Maybe you don't even attend this church. You're joining us on Facebook. I'm glad you're here. Who's feeding your spirit besides this message, besides Stephen Furtick, besides that one podcast a week? The people that you're getting advice from, are they living the life that you want to live? Do they have the bank account you want to have? Do they have the walk with Christ that you want to have? Do they talk about things that uplift you? Do you leave their house, their conversations, their parties feeling uplifted or deflated? Be careful who you're getting marriage advice from, marriage people. Single people, be careful who you're getting single advice from. Is there fruit? Are there fruits in there? I also have to identify where are we living for free or taking shortcuts. Free comes with a cost. I closed out the furniture store. In between transition of going to work for my aunt and uncle, I was able, because I closed the store, I was able to qualify for unemployment. So here I am, a retired business owner, but yet going to be in sales for my aunt and uncle for a couple of years before I feel like my blessing of getting healthy and being a coach came into my life. I was on unemployment, and I only needed it for 3 months. I stayed on it for about 1.5 years. Why? Because how much is free costing you? If you live off of just enough, you will lower your standards, because here's how the dare I say the word government works. They keep you just on the little teat, just enough to keep you just over broke. Because they tell you if you go make more money, you have to give up this. So what happens is we start living on minimums, and we don't know how to get out. See, it's called a system, and it wants to keep you there. So here Doug is, long before becoming the abundance church boy to millionaire. I was just a broke church boy, okay, that couldn't even give, hadn't even went back and made right on past wrongs, living off of unemployment, and Tia kind of working some side hustles. I'm like, shh, I have to stay off the agreements, because if they find out we're making this money, we can't have it. So it let us live a standard. And I just ask you, how much is free costing you? I believe systems and ways of government help is important, but don't get comfortable. Don't get comfortable. Where am I not investing? Am I investing in my marriage, my health, my faith, personal development? I'll come back to that. It might just be letting go of people who have wronged us. You know, Facebook and social media, friends, don't be afraid of the unfollow button. Make sure you click subscribe to One Church Scottsdale. But you unfollow everyone else who's clogging up your news feed. A couple days ago, I was in Florida. I put up, of all times, man, I open up my phone and I pop Instagram. I'm like, hey, let me show you a picture. And there's like 4 people standing around. And there's a half-naked person in my feed. And I'm like, what in the, and then I'm like, I didn't, you start double talking. And I go and I look, and I'm like, it's this personal development company that I really like. And they give me so much encouragement for business advice. They put memes, hey, how many's got someone that you follow for just great memes? Yeah. All right, Cody and I and Josh, okay, Lance, yeah, okay. 4 of us do. Y'all got to get on the meme game. They're great. But I discovered in that moment, am I going to allow this company, this person, to put one thing that actually sends me quickly to a dark place of pulling up old habits that I'm fighting for purity in to take me back? And I'm like, oh man, this is one of my favorite. But they didn't even get one get out of jail free card. One strike, you're out. Guess what? Clicked, unfollowed, because it sends me to a dark place. So again, remember, your mind and your spirit is not for sale. So don't be afraid to click the unfollow or the block button. Okay. Are we doing okay? Are we doing good? All right. I know this is a little different than last week because it's a little more like information. Thank you. Rowdy said keep going. We got till 3 o'clock. Okay, good. Okay. Let's talk about this. I want to read this. How many times does the Bible talk about money? Because, money's horrible, right? Money's the root of all evil. No, we talked about this last week. Money's neutral. I got $200 bills here. Like, this thing hasn't done nothing to you. It's a good thing. It don't have spirit. It has no attitude. It don't give you smack. It don't give you problems. It magnifies more of who you are. It magnifies more of the abundant heart or the gratitude heart. And I'm getting ahead of myself, but some of you I know don't like money in the room. And here's how I know. Every time you get it, you have to get rid of it. I know you don't like money. You get it, you're like, "Duh! Get out of my hands. You filthy thing, you. I need to spend you on something because I could not possibly let one of these sit in my wallet for this long." Money is neutral. It just magnifies. You're a giver, you're going to give. You give Operation Child Christmases, you're going to go, I don't want 1 box, I want 2 boxes. Shoot, I want 3. Josh, are we okay if we do more than enough? Okay, Josh says we can give more than enough. I love when hands go up. We need 6, and 16 hands go up. You know what? If 60 people go and see Lydia, let's buy all these kids Christmas presents. Let's do more. Okay, so it often surprises Christians when they discover just how much the Bible talks about money. In fact, there are more than 2,300 verses that talk about money, wealth, or possessions. 2,300. Jesus spoke about money roughly 15% of his preaching out of 11 of 39 parables. It was the most talked about subject. But why? Matthew 6:19 through 21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth where moths and venom destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Everyone say treasures in heaven. Where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Jesus also spoke about money, not because he was obsessed with money, is that he wanted us to have lots of it, but because he knew that the money was a heart issue. And we sit here, you can have my heart, but not my Xbox. You can have my heart, but not that iPhone. You can have my heart, but not my Escalade. You can have my heart. You can take my 1-bedroom apartment. Right? So Jesus spoke about money because he knew it was a heart issue and that it is one of the most likely reasons for someone to not follow him or give up on him. Money is important because the money you have in your wallet has no intrinsic value. It is worth what the government says it's worth. And just, y'all know this thing is not worth as much as it was a couple months ago, right? It is essentially morally neutral and powerless. The devil uses money to seduce us. That is when it can become powerful in a negative direction. He wants you to fall in love with it so that you will become a slave to money rather than its master. The flip side is when we use money as a tool to invest in God's kingdom, money becomes a powerful instrument of God. I can tell you right now, the schools that Tia and I support all around the world, in Haiti, Guatemala, where else, Tia? Where else are we? Kenya. Do you think they have an issue with me making more money? They're send it over, baby. Uncle Doug, send it over. I'm like, okay, I'm working. I'm changing lives over here. Send it over because I accept it and I begin to partner with income. So let's talk about partnering with abundance. Number 4, partnering with abundance. You're like, Doug, when are you going to get into the real stuff? This is the real stuff. Amen. It's a hard issue. I'll give you a few ideas here in a minute. Partner with abundance. Tia talks about partnering with your future self. Some of us, money is truly trying to find us. It's just time to just, again, last week we closed the service singing Child of God, and I just asked everyone, instead of standing like this, which is, I've got this, God. I've got it. They're not getting me to raise my hands. 2, God, I'm ready for more. I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. Money is trying to find us. Good marriage is trying to find you. We deserve to be healthy and wealthy. We have to start speaking it over you. Tia says a prayer every single night over our kids. She says the same prayer, and they can repeat it over and over again. And it's powerful because we pray this stuff over ourselves, over our children. Start speaking what you want, folks, into existence. Start speaking it over your kids. Accept that wealth and giving. And some of you are sitting in the room like I did years ago. And I would sit in these rooms, and I'd see one of these sitting on my chair when I'd come in. I'm like, ugh, that evil envelope that everyone else can use. But you know what? I don't have anything to put in here right now, Doug. Good. I was sitting in your shoes exactly 12 years ago. Absolutely nothing to put in. And I'm going to tell you here in a minute where to start. So start partnering with abundance. Number 5, establish a new baseline. I said some of you don't like this because you get rid of it so soon. So start with, what's your panic number when you start to see a number in your bank account that is higher than normal, and you like, I need to go to Target now, right? I need to go buy that new right now because I'm not comfortable seeing more than $700 in my account, or $1,000, or $2,000, or $5,000. What is your new baseline? What is your current baseline? And some of you, it's no, it's 0. If it's in the positive, it's a good week. Okay, because I will find. I get you. I will find something to spend this on. Establish a new standard in your bank account. No more shortcuts. No more water in the cup. What about taxes? My dad told me years ago, he says, if he ever gets audited, maybe he did get audited, I don't know what he said. He talked about getting audited. He goes, I don't answer to the government, I answer to him. And if you find a mistake, it was an honest mistake, not a purposeful mistake. So where in the gray area are you cutting corners? Well, Doug, the government. Yeah, you know what? Let God take care of the government. Well, remember, we operate in God's economy, not the government's economy. Where am I cheating myself? Budget. One of the best things T and I ever did was get into Dave Ramsey's Total Money Makeover. Okay? Total Money Makeover. If you're not reading that book, if you haven't went through that course, get online and get it. Financial Peace University. I tell you, we lived off the envelope system, the debit card only system. It's like cut up the credit cards. Decrease. We had to look at current reality and say, we're in debt. Credit cards, how much are they? Can I stop using them? We downgraded to a 1-bedroom apartment for a season because to move forward, we had to take a step back. Car payment. We sold the Armada. That was a beautiful, nice car for us then. But you know what? We have to decrease so God can increase. Eating out, we had to stop it. We decided we're going to have garage sales. What can we sell? Some of you guys are looking at me like, you're nuts. Folks, I live in God's economy now. Okay, you have to be nuts for about 12 to 18 months so you can buy all the nuts you want. All right? Leviticus 27:30 says, a tithe of everything from the land, whether grain from the soil or fruits from the trees, belongs to the Lord. Let's just stop and go, whew. A tithe, we'll talk about what a tithe is in a moment, of everything from the land, whether it be grain or soil, or fruit from the trees. Again, this was different times back then, but again, put it in today's context, belongs to the Lord. Is it holy to the Lord? These gifts were a reminder that everything belonged to God, and a portion was given back to God to thank him for what they had received. Oh, we're talking about gratitude again. Thank you, God. Thank you for giving and breathing life into me. Malachi 3:8-10 says, will a mere mortal rob God, yet you rob me? But you ask, how are we robbing you? In tithes and offerings often. You are under a curse, your nation, because you are robbing me. Bring the whole tithe into the storehouse, and there may be food for my house. Test me in this, says the Lord God Almighty, and see if we will not throw open the floodgates of heaven and pour out so much blessing over you. And you're like, Doug, are you really going to talk about tithe? Yes, I am. Because it was this, and it was just like, okay, God, I'm going to start testing you. But you're saying, Doug and Tia didn't live on a budget. So where did we start? Well, if the Bible says 10, and now we operate out of more than 10, because, again, I want to err on the side of abundance, we started with 1%. Because we went from when we had money, we would tithe. When we didn't money, we wouldn't do anything. So again, you can't do anything if you don't have anything. But we started with 1%. And then we moved to 2%. So giving, I challenge you to start with this, if you can do it now, or earn your way with 1% to 2%, okay? Let's earn our way there to giving back to God. Giving 10%. This is Tia's and I's life 10 years ago, but also now we just live on less now. Give 10%. And I just dare you to go 10.1. 10.2? Don't you get a 10.3 in the house? Okay. Got to wake everybody up. Savings, we automatically save 10%. Non-negotiable. Non-negotiable. Invest 10%. And you're thinking, oh man, Doug, I can't even. No, I'm not saying you have to invest in the stock market. I'm saying invest in a book. Invest in a coaching course. Invest in Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace University. Find an area to invest and then live on 70%. Now, Tia and I choose to live on a far less than that now because we can, but we started with 1%. And we learned daily small disciplines on our tithe. And then here's a fun one. I always get the question, well, Doug, do you tithe on your gross or your net? Well, I can't find that in Scripture. So I'm just going to go with, you can have my heart. Giving is a heart issue. Gratitude is a heart. Asking for more is a heart. I want an airplane someday. Why? So I can go and help more people. Because right now it takes me 4 hours to go through the airport, okay? And I need to get there in one, all right? So God, I'm asking for an airplane. And some of you guys are like, you're crazy, Doug. Or you're just like the rest of them. No, I'm not. God has put me on assignment, and I understand my purpose. It took me till I was 33 years old, and I challenge you to start thinking that way too. Okay. Slide. Now we're on number 6. Let's invite God into our business to be the CEO. This is going to be a little deep, and I got to speed this thing up. Okay, real quick. Move to the next one, if we can, Ryan. Part of inviting God to be the CEO was, and if you guys can see me everywhere, this was my life. There's body, there's mind, there's spirit, there's soul, and there's finances. I separated all of them into 3 categories. Why? Because I would have my friends and community, and that's a part of my body. Therefore, my mind, those were my thoughts. My spirit, that was my faith and church community. But I'm just going to go, my soul, maybe it was the language I was using, the way I was talking about my spouse, or maybe choosing I shouldn't be talking about my spouse that way when I'm with the guys. So what happens was I would start to wear a hat for the group of people I was with. I was one person with these friends, and I was one person with my church friends. Soul, money, mindset. And what happened was I found that, my soul is dealing with confusion and fear. Maybe it's a money mindset, but I would be like, well, I got to leave God out of that. And I had all these rows of our life that felt so silent. And literally, I call it confronting separation. Because I felt like, man, my job and career, that's a job and career issue. That has nothing to do with my spirit or the fruits of my spirit. You guys see what I'm saying here? How we begin to put things in categories. But if we fast forward to the next one, when we come into alignment with our Father who lives within us, there's zero separation. There's absolutely zero separation, because I can stand before you in a church right now and say, you know what? I like making money. I can help more people. I can buy more turkeys. I can do what I need to do. But then, is my job or my career, is it a ministry, is it a business, all this confusion, it's like, God, who have you called me to be? I'm a child of God, and I'm put on this earth to add value to others. And I challenge you today, start thinking like this, which is why I want to lead to number 7 as we start to wrap up. Number 7 is confirm your assignment or change your assignment. I was 32 years old, been in the furniture business for 12 years, uneducated, before I'm like, I was praying for a miracle. God, I need a miracle. God, I need a bailout. Phil Mickelson, I need a bailout. Help me. And I just realized I was praying and I was on the wrong assignment. Some of you in this room have a degree and you're in a career field that you absolutely hate. And you're trying to figure out you're in a Josh is coming on because he just left law enforcement. But he wanted to be a cop. He was a Marine. But he had to leave because it didn't make sense in his economy, but it started to make sense in God's economy. So I ask you today, for all this to start making sense, don't be afraid. You can be 40, 50, 60 years old, 70 years old, 15 years old. It doesn't matter the age. Confirm that you're on God's assignment for your life or change your own assignment. One of the most popular questions I get is, Doug, how do you know if you're on assignment? Or how do you know if you're living and operating in your own unique ability? Do you love it? Are you good at it? Then you deserve to be paid for it. Write that down. Am I good at it? Do I love it? Then I deserve to be paid for it. If you're not, it's just a job. And you ain't going to like me for saying this, but my job was just over broke for many years to where I lived for the weekends, limped into church on Sunday. Hey, brother, good to see you. Walked out, lived the same week over and over and over again before I literally had to go, gosh, I'm not on assignment. God, what do you have for me? What does this next season look for you? And I realized I loved helping people. I loved coaching people. I loved encouraging people. So I figured out a way to start getting paid for it, and it's like everything else fell into place. Number 8, we must create financial increase. We must create financial increase. Truth is, we need more money. Creating income is a good thing. Some of us need to start flexing that hustle muscle. Flex that hustle muscle. It's okay to drive Uber. Well, I don't need to. I didn't say you need to. It might be something to change things up. Well, I'm too good for that. I don't deliver pizzas. Yeah, I thought so too. But how bad did you want to be out of debt? I had to do what I had to do, folks. You're going to have to do what you got to do. Teens, these phones. Where's these phones at? These multi-million-dollar devices. Are you consuming or are you creating? Adults, are you consuming or are you creating? This is a multi-million-dollar device. You're like, wow, Doug, that's a cool phone. I wish mine was. You hold the same thing in your hand. In fact, I'm usually about 4 generations behind. So I think this is a 7 plus. It's the big one. Maybe it's a 10. I don't know. What number are they on now? Who's forward? They're on 13. Okay, I think this is a 10. All right? This is a multi-million-dollar device. Why? Because it gives you access to everybody in the world with the click of a button right now. Your network is your net worth. Okay? Make new connections. Teens, I'm challenging you. These $100 bills right here. I mean, the things that are going to be created in this world for God are so powerful. The ideas that you have in your mind that you're mustering up and you're thinking, yeah, that's no big deal. I know my boys back here are some avid gamers, and I want to give you guys each $100. Go ahead and take that. Go ahead and take that. Reach your hand out. It's called accepting, all right? Because these boys right here are gamers, and in a society of today that is like, oh man, all the kids are gaming. Do you know that these boys right here are going to flip upside down the gaming industry for the kingdom of God because of the ideas that are birthed inside of these 2 young men by an amazing mom who's an amazing entrepreneur. So be careful what we're shaming because we're living in a different world, especially if you're my age or older. Be careful what you're shaming today. These kids right now are being raised and born and raised, and they're in this life right now, and it's a lot harder than us walking uphill both ways in the snow. They're seeing things on their phones that we didn't even have access to phones. The comparative reality is they scroll every single day, and the things that they are hearing sometimes on these gaming sites are not pretty. So you pray over your kids. You battle. You contend. Fight for these teens in this room. Guys, we are not fighting a government. There's a war in the heavenlies every single day, and we've got to take this stuff so seriously. I believe in these boys. I believe in every single teen in here because we got to put this technology to use and use it for good because I'm seeing it cause too much harm. Number 9, make the daily commitment to be consistent. Will I make the daily commitment to be consistent? God, everything Doug's talking about today are great ideas, man, but where do I even start? It starts by moving your alarm from 7 a.m. tomorrow to 6:45. And then you do it for a week. And spend that 15 minutes in God's Word or asking Him, just saying, God, give me some fresh ideas. Am I on your assignment of my degree or of my job, or am I on assignment from you? Folks, it's not too late to start. And then I make the daily commitment by maybe saying, I didn't raise my hand, but maybe I can pick up a turkey. Maybe I can do an Operation a Christmas box. And then you go see Josh after this and say, you know what, I want to get in on one of these boxes. Because it's just saying, I can do a little thing. I can make a daily commitment to just be consistent. I'm going to wrap up, and then I'm going to end with 10. I'm definitely becoming a pastor if I have 2 closings, 3. More like Pastor Rowdy every day. Hebrews 12, 1 through 12. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a crowd of witnesses to the life of faith, let us strip off every weight that slows us down. Every weight. Does that mean possibly giving up TikTok for a week? If that's a weight. I mean, it was for me last year. I had TikTok. And I just kind of gave it up because some of the things on there didn't make me feel that much better, even though there were some really cool things on there too. So again, God's just saying, let us strip off every weight that is slowing us down. And if your spouse is the weight, that's another sermon that Pastor Rowdy will speak on, how to deal with that. Especially the sin that is so easily trips us up. And let us run with endurance the race that God has set before us. We do this by keeping our eyes on Jesus, the champion who initiates and perfects our faith. Because of the joy awaiting in him, he endured the cross, disregarding its shame. Now he is seated in the place of honor besides his God's throne. And I just felt like I'm supposed to say this. I'm going to go back as I wrap up. But I felt like I touched on a wound of giving that is uncomfortable, especially for a lot of you that are new believers. Where do I give back? You know, I'm going to let someone more educated in the Bible maybe teach to some of the details. But again, I go back to, I believe giving is a heart issue. And if you're watching this on Facebook, you're like, well, I don't go to that church. Well, has God spoken to you through this message? Do you watch Stephen Furtick? Are you giving to his ministry? Are you watching Joel Osteen? Do you give to his ministry? I believe it's give where you're fed. So T and I, Doug, where do you guys pay your tithe? Well, we pay it here in a lot of places. We give above and beyond because we're fed 7 days a week from many different people. And Pastor Rowdy and Ashley in one church is a key part of that. So it's just we begin to think about this stuff. I was talking to somebody just today. This morning I got a voice text from somebody, and they're like, man, somebody who I'm close to buys a lot of things purposely. They wear it knowing that they're going to return it the next day, so basically they're borrowing it. What should I do? Should I say something? I'm like, well, that's your revelation. Maybe it's not theirs yet. So I'm just giving you some new things to think about today. These are all the norms and the status quos that sometimes we just, It's like a status quo of mine. I didn't realize till a couple of years ago that when you stay at a hotel, just because you don't see the maids that come through and flip the beds doesn't mean you don't leave $5 or $10 on the bed for them. And somebody told me that. And this is after I've been speaking abundance messages. And I'm like, I never thought of that. Just new ways to begin to partner with that. So I challenge you today, start in 1 or 2 little areas of either giving back. Maybe it's a phone call we need to make today, which leads to number 10, starting with action. I challenge those of you, Bill, could you play the piano? That'd be great. I would love a little background music here. In fact, let's all stand. Let's just stand. Becoming more of a pastor every day, because I think this is the time that you're supposed to stand. And today I want you to start with taking action. And maybe the action that we're going to take here in a second is just as we begin to sing that song again, I am a child of God. We're just going to take our hands from, again, we're going to go, for those of you that can't see me, we're going to go from me to just we. Maybe that's the first action we're going to take today, of just saying, God, these are new. You've revealed to me today some things I've never thought of before. And again, it's just very simple. From going here to here. And I want everyone to do that. Just close your eyes. I'm not going to look at you. Don't look at me. Just ask God, God, what action do you want me to take? What are you revealing to me? And if you start to think of something that's usually God, don't dismantle it. God, am I willing to make the daily commitment to be consistent? God, who do I need to make a phone call to that is going to be a very hard phone call to make? What letter do I need to write as an apology because that's more appropriate for the situation? Who do I owe $10 to? God, is it you? Did I make a promise to you a year or two ago and man, I just kind of swept that one under the rug? God, am I on assignment? God, maybe you're in this room right now and you don't feel like you have an assignment. And you're just going through life every single day. And it's just kind of seeming hard and it's just boring. Just ask God, God, I need creativity. Just ask for creativity right now. You are a child of God, so ask Him. Just say, Dad, I need something. You can talk to God however you want. God, Dad, I need something. Dad, I need some creativity. And as we begin to sing this song, I just want you to declare it over your life. But before we do sing that, I'm asking you just to think, and maybe today before Pastor Rowdy takes the offering, this is a step of 1%. Maybe it's a step of 1.5%. Wherever God is leading you, those of you on Facebook, who's pouring into you right now, whether it be this message or another one, go invest. This is God speaking to you. It just looks different. It's not always inside the four walls of the church anymore. It's on the internet. Go breathe life into these ministries that are feeding you. Church fam, I just want you to declare these 10 over your life. And just say, God, what's next? I'm ready to be committed. I'm ready to recommit. I'm ready to make the daily commitment to be consistent. And I'm willing to start with action. Show me, and then I can execute now. Pastor Rowdy, let's sing that song.